Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our weekly Georgia podcast here on the Transfer Portal presented by No Context College Football. I'm Doug, and here we have Brian again. Brian, how's it going today?
What's up? I'm doing well. Coming off a big win, so I'm doing well. I'm happy. I'm excited. Yeah, it's been a good week.
Oh yeah, no, it's been amazingly easy win. Probably the least stress-free win at that stadium in a long time.
Yeah.
Very happy about it. So let's just get right into it. Let's just talk about the game. So what are your first thoughts about how we played? Because I know we had, even though we thought we'd both win, like both of us thought we'd win, you had concerns about how we do against, say, that Auburn the defensive line, and dealing with that. So, like, how do you think we did compared to what you predicted, and so on and so on?
Yeah. So when we talked about last week and we were predicting the game, and I said, a couple of things to look out for is Auburn's defensive line. They're probably one of the best ones that we had seen, all season. And then also is containing Bo Nix's ability to run and make plays and move around, which I think we did a really good job. I think our defense probably showed a little bit that they looked the most vulnerable this game than usual. They were able to move down. They were able to move down the field. They were in the red zone a few times. I know they went for it on that fourth down before halftime and didn't get it. So, they had a lot of opportunities to score outside of normally what Georgia's defense is accustomed to seeing. So, so I think it kind of materialized the way that we kind of talked about last week. We talked about Stetson Bennett being able to throw the ball, which he did extremely well. He did a really good job of doing. We talked about the trenches and the offensive defensive line, and when I said that I'm concerned about Auburn, I was concerned about Auburn being able to stop the run and then forcing Stetson to throw the ball and then making a mistake. And I feel like that was the only way that Auburn had a chance to win. And that did not happen. Especially that last drive when we iced the game, we ran the ball and we just dog walked them down the field and scored a touchdown. I mean, they were on their knees, they were, winded, and we just kept pounding the run all the way to the end zone, and we scored a touchdown. And that was beautiful. The most beautiful drive I've seen in a long time. Just really, really put in getting to them and putting them away. So it was everything that I wanted to see. I saw. I said my only concern was the defense. It just looked a little vulnerable, and and obviously we're going to face better quarterbacks down the road, especially as we get to the SEC championship game and the playoff if we get to that point. So, Bo Nix is not the best. He's not anything near what we're going to see, but he's probably the best quarterback that we've seen. At least this far in the season. I think we did. I think we did pretty good. I don't like giving up that touchdown. I don't want to give up points. I like to keep that as clean as possible, but that's just nitpicking at this point.
Yeah, no, like he said, like there was a little bit of vulnerability with the pass offense. The pass defense from us. Like they were plays that were open. It's just that, like I mentioned last week, Bo Nix, for some reason, he can make one out of every like 6 or 7 of those throws. It's just that the one always somehow ends up being a big play. But the receivers are getting open for the most part. I'm just lucky that Bo Nix is an awful quarterback and he couldn't do anything. I'm also thankful that we have a great defensive line, great set of linebackers that are able to generate constant pressure and get him either on the ground or running for his life and making some awful decisions. Because you look at the replays that they had, the receivers were open and they were talking like he has them there. You just got to get it out, but he wasn't getting them out. So the one thing I do wish is to clean up some of the penalties that we had. Believe that there was a few pass interference ones that were kind of timely. Kind of untimely, but so we got away with a little bit there between that red zone stop as well as the few of the throws that Bo can generate. As for the offense, they exceeded expectations. You had McConkey doing well. You
Yeah.
had Zamir, like McConkey, bro. Like for a guy that only had what two FBS offers, Army and Vandy, and like going from that to being the lead receiver on this team, a team that's the best in the country, like it's insane. Like you can just you can play when you're here. If you can play, you can play. You'll get the opportunity. Like Brock Bowers also, even though he one of his more quieter games, but he was still getting opportunities there. The receiving game was available, and the offense just did really well for the most part. I wasn't really worried about Auburn's defense outside of that front, but yeah, no, Bennett did well. The one concern I did mention was that arm, because that first deep ball to McConkey should have been 7, but it just kind of sat. But then the second one he nailed. Like, so it's just something that comes and goes. It's something that happens to every quarterback. So I'm not really going to get on his case. But
It's funny you say that though. I was actually I was watching games. I wanted to go back and kind of see what Stetson's progressed, the last couple of seasons. And I was watching a couple of games, especially the Florida game last year. The game against Kentucky last year. The deep ball, he just overthrowing them. He wasn't very accurate. He wasn't really, that Florida game too. I mean, there were so many deep balls where they were wide
so
open,
many missed throws.
and he missed a lot of those throws. And you're not seeing that this year. You're really not. He's over. Yeah, he did have he underthrew McConkey, but I mean, McConkey is just so. I mean, lad is so fast. You kind of.
Yeah.
I rather him, underthrow him than overthrow him. And you're not going to overthrow McConkey, I don't think. So, and we've seen what he did against UAB, those deep balls, and he's getting them there, and that's what is important about. That's what's different about this team, and that's why I like Stetson. I don't mind having Stetson at quarterback because he can make the throws, and that Saturday solidified that he can make the throws. And there was a lot of tight windows where I think there was that third. I think it was the third and I think it was 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and you had and McConkey ran a quick slant inside, and he slung that in right into that window to pick up a first down. And you didn't see that last year. You didn't see him do that last year, and to see that his progression. I see why he's playing over Carson Beck, and we had those questions early on. He's definitely he's not Stetson Beck. He's not Stetson Bennett of the past. He's definitely very capable of quarterbacking the #1 team in the country.
Oh yeah, no, like I wasn't necessarily complaining about Stetson and like the arm per se, but I was just mentioning because that one throw did sit. But it's like you said, the arm's gotten a lot better since last year, where he was missing them a lot with regularity. That Florida game, you could tell the receivers were getting open. He just couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, which is why a lot of people wanted Mathis back in, but he also couldn't hit the broadside of the barn. It was a tough year for quarterbacks last year. But but this year, JT's looked great whenever he's played. Bennett's looked great whenever he played. Like Bennett should play next week against Kentucky because 1, he's healthy. 2, he can handle Kentucky, even though they have a great defense. Like we've played great defenses before with him at quarterback. We can handle him. He knows the team. Like he's had much rapport with the receiving core that we don't necessarily need to force JT back. It isn't like where it's like a freshman, like starting freshman that's not really comfortable. Like if Beck was playing instead of Bennett, then yes, I'd force JT back early. But no, Bennett's been great. No real complaints for the most part. The one thing I also do like was that design QB run that got a big chunk of yards. Like that's something that we've missed. I know we used to do that a lot with Murray with those design runs because he could move quite a bit. Like that's something I did miss a lot. Like it's beautiful actually because it adds another element. That's something that we haven't really seen. Because think about it, Fromm could run, but not like Bennett. And then Murray, Murray's probably the closest archetype in terms of like frame, and having those runs do help open up and buy a lot of time, even though the offensive line's great, but sometimes you need extra time. So who would you say your standout players for the game were?
I mean, we alluded to it. I think Lad McConkey definitely just he's definitely stepped up to be filled that number one slot as a wide receiver for this team. And I mean, he balls, man. That he balls. He's a 3-star recruit, like we mentioned, two D1 offers before Georgia came calling, and Stetson too. I mean, we know Stetson's story. At least Georgia fans know Stetson's story. When you have a 2-star quarterback throwing to a 3-star wide receiver, beating an SEC rival on the road by 20 points, that easily,
Yeah.
that's exciting. So Thad McConkey, I think he's my player of the game. He's the standout performer. I think it's starting to feel that there's no hole in this team anymore. There really isn't. It doesn't matter who's out there. I think that's we're in good shape. So I think he's gonna with that, I'll have Lad be my standout player of the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, Lad's a great answer. I will go a different direction because I don't want us to be repetitive. I'll go defensively. I'll go with Quay Walker. Was all over the place yesterday. Actually, the whole entire team was, but I'll give credit to Quay. Like, he had the sack, was in the backfield a lot, was able to generate a lot of pressure. Like, I'll give that to him. He was just amazing. Um, and then offensively, I gotta give it to Zamir because Zeus, as much as I gave him crap for not really being like the best wiggle and burst, he's what you needed in games because he can run through, he can generate those broken tackles, the momentum he gets. By the time the opposing defense is worn down, he'll get those extra yards. He can power through. You saw it at the last touchdown run that he had.
Yeah.
You saw how many broken tackles that he had because he was able to power through because Auburn was tired and gassed, and we're doing a lot of ball control. And even though this isn't like Georgia teams in the past where we can actually throw, but the bread and butter is still the run game. We were able to generate a lot of collisions at the line of scrimmage, being able to generate that space. And you won't get stopped at that first point of attack like that. So Zamir, props to you. Give you applause, and I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
genuinely sorry.
Yeah, he's been great. And I think he's finally, he's finally healthy too. I mean, he had 2 ACL injuries back to back years. He missed the whole freshman season. His sophomore year, he was still behind DeAndre Swift, so he didn't really get a chance to break out. Last year with the whole there's no off season. There's really much, it was really hard for them to really get an offense together with no off season essentially. And so I think now you're starting to see that he's reaping the benefits of his hard work, and he's played amazingly. And my on defense, I think I'm starting to get Tom Brady syndrome, where you don't give Tom Brady the MVP anymore because he's just Tom Brady and you just expect him to be good. I feel like that with our defense. Like, I don't see anybody on the defensive side of the ball and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's our standout of the game, because that's just expected at this point, right? Like you mentioned, the entire front seven is incredible. So I think at this point, you just kind of like, oh, Nakobe Dean had 6 tackles and 2 sacks and an interception. Just another Saturday afternoon, right? So yeah, I think we definitely have some studs on defense.
Yeah, we definitely do. And like we said earlier, like talking about like how we have no holes and next man up, like Dan Jackson came off the bench, right? Put out optimal performance. He was excellent. Like, he's a former walk on.
Yeah.
And for guys that say Kirby doesn't develop, 2-star quarterback, 3-star receiver, another 3-star receiver, and AD Mitchell caught another touchdown. Jordan Davis is a 3-star. Going back to players that have played at the program, J.R. Reed, transfer. Like, there's a lot of talent that Kirby develops. Honestly, I think Kirby's better with the 3-stars than he is with the 5-stars. Because you expect at least some sort of expectation. If you have some sort of expectation for those 5-stars to come in and at least have like a different set. But no, like with the 3-stars, you see them guys outperforming everybody. Like, if you would have told me beginning of the year Lad McConkey would be our leading receiver, everybody would just laugh because we have so much talent at the position. Granted, injuries have impacted it. But at the same time, like once everybody's healthy, like you can't leave Vlad on the bench because he's been that good. So we're just like, I mean, it's a good thing to have. It's embarrassment of riches, but
It's
development.
yeah, it's incredible, man. It's I don't know what those white boys are doing down in Athens, man. But these white boys can ball. You got Stetson Bennett, you got Lad McConkey, you got Dan Jackson, um, you know, Brock Bowers, man. These white boys are balling. I don't know if Kirby just he likes his under recruited white boys, but he's like he's the I don't know if you saw that tweet where it was like Lad McConkey, future receiver for the Patriots. It kind of reminds me of that type of guy, like Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan, those types of quick, quick, undersized white guys who can go out there and just get yards and just catch the balls every 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, and then Lad can get out there and catch a 60-yard bomb. So yeah, it's crazy. It really is. It's incredible. Yeah, but that like you said, the Kirby Smart can develop camp. I mean, it's you know it's just a complaint people have to discredit Kirby Smart. And my biggest I will say, to their credit, the only legitimate concern that I've had with Kirby Smart is dealing in quarterback room. I think he hasn't done the best of jobs, dealing with the quarterback room and making those decisions. And we saw it a little bit this year with trying to switch out JT and Stetson. And to be quite clear and frank, Stetson Bennett should not be playing if JT Daniels is healthy. Stetson Bennett has
Right.
done an amazing job,
Yes.
throughout the season, and I think he's earned his right and he's earned his keep as a damn good Georgia Bulldog, and as one of the best. I don't want to say was one of the best Georgia Bulldogs players, like talent wise, but he's going to go down, especially if we win the Natty this year. He's going to go down as one of the most important Georgia players ever. But you can Kirby Smart can develop, and we saw Eric Stokes, J.R. Reed, those types of guys. We've seen they're all of them are in the NFL now, especially on the defense side of the ball. And now you're starting to see it on the offense too. And I think a lot of credit goes to Todd Monken as well. So there is no holes in this team anymore. Before you could take
Right.
away the run, You when with Jake Fromm, the goal was take away the run, and force him to pass the ball. And that we lost a lot of games that way,
Right.
and we lost I think the national championship game against Alabama, we lost that way because we couldn't run the ball in the second half. The SEC championship game against Alabama, we couldn't run the ball in the second half. So,
Jim
and
Chaney.
yeah, Jim Chaney. So, and now they take away the run. Okay, yeah, we're gonna go deep to Lad McConkey. We're gonna go deep to A.D. Mitchell. We're gonna go deep to Jermaine Burton. And now we're using the tight ends. We
Yeah.
didn't use tight ends for for 5. We had Isaac Nada, the number 1 tight end in the country, for 3 seasons, and he had maybe 18 catches all his time at Georgia. So it's incredible. It really is. Seeing Kirby develop his talent has been fun to watch this year for sure.
Right. No, like Kirby can develop. Like the one thing with a QB room, like it's weird because he made the right choice with Fromm over Easton, made the wrong choice with sticking with Fromm over Fields. Last year, I'm just gonna give him a pass because that's just that's COVID. Like we had Jamie Newman come in and then he got some awful advice. I mean, I'm not gonna fault the kid because he didn't think the season was happening to go into the draft, but he should have stayed.
Yeah.
But yeah. But now JT like being healthy worked out in the end. And then this year, I wouldn't say he did anything wrong this year in a sense. Because for the most part, like JT wasn't healthy, so they pulled him out for a few of those games and let Bennett in. Like probably the best thing he did was ignore that start Beck crowd because Stetson has improved a lot as a passer. So he really silenced that portion of the fan base. And then so that's the QB room. And then the one thing, like I like the fact that you mentioned that Monken's done well. Like that first Amir touchdown was a nice wrinkle because they had Milton as the running back and then they had Zamir as a fullback. It's just a nice change of pace from what we've come used to because the main sort of creativity was that little motions wing pass every single time.
Yeah.
That was like the main sort of creativity back then, but now it's like you have these small wrinkles week in, week out. Like there's different things that we do, and it keeps teams on their toes, which I like. Like Monken has modernized the offense quite a bit. Hopefully, he doesn't get poached by a program, but if he does, hopefully we go out on top this
Yeah.
season. But if we go out on top this season, he can get poached. I don't care.
That
But
just
if he
comes with the
doesn't,
territory at this point. You see Alabama's coaches getting poached every year, and they're still great. So,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely, absolutely. Like look at Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker was the defense coordinator. Now he's killing it at Michigan State and Kenneth Walker. Great, great player.
Speaking of that, Dan Lanning's I mean, I hate to say it, but he's not going to be he's not lasting very long with Georgia. He's going to be given a Binks truck is going to be pulled into his home at the end of the season, and he's going somewhere. I think he might go to the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I can see it. Like for the most part, you're pretty safe with going with our coordinators for either a NFL gig or a G5 or even some cases a P5 gig like Mel Tucker. Like probably the only real, at least for the defense side. Offensive side, we've had guys. I don't even know where Jim Chaney's at now. But then Coley's back. I don't even know where Coley's at either.
He's at A&M, I think.
Oh, yeah,
I think Cheney's in the NFL.
Jim Chaney.
I think he's with the Packers now.
He is an analyst with the Saints.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where Jim Chaney's at. And then Coley's probably at A&M. So speaking of offense, Georgia's got a brand new recruit. You've got Oscar Delp committing to your dogs. And Ryan, what do you think of Oscar committing, and how do you think he fits in with the team next year and beyond?
Yeah, I think, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about just a few minutes ago. It goes to show that the evolution of Georgia's offense, outside of Isaac Nada, I think he kind of more came to Georgia because he was really good friends with Jacob Eason. I think they were best friends and they came together. So I think it was more that than necessarily his opportunities here. But we've seen the last couple of years, Darnell Washington, and then Oscar Delp, making that decision, Brock Bowers, and you see them being utilized. And I think it goes to show that they trust tight ends are starting to trust Georgia's offense to give them the ball, and they have. We've seen the first 5-6 games of the year. You saw Oscar Darnell Washington's getting back healthy, and he's getting some touches as well. So I love it. I love it. We can never be too good on offense. It doesn't hurt to have a good offense, and having the last few years, we've had a manageable offense with a really good defense, and it just whenever that defense, shows a hole, the offense isn't there to pick it up. We saw that against LSU in the SEC championship game, against in Alabama as well, and all that. So, now we don't have that, and we have all the opportunity to be really, really good offensively. And Oscar Delp, he's a baller, man. I was watching his film earlier today. He has size, he has speed, he can catch the ball, he has agility. He's a really, really good pickup. I hope that it's a seamless transition for him, kind of like Brock Bowers. I can't wait to see that, next year, or the year after that, having him and Brock Bowers kind of a two tight end tandem. That's going to be fun to watch. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. And it just, like I said, it just goes to show. And shout out to Todd Hartley, our tight ends coach. He's a big reason why this is happening. He came in a couple years ago. I think it was in 2019 when he came in, and his recruiting prowess is incredible. He brought Donald Washington. He's brought even outside of tight ends, he's brought in a lot of recruits. So shout out to Coach Hartley. I think he's done an amazing job with those tight ends. And he's continuing to get talent and improve. And I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, like you said, we have so much opportunity. Oscar can fit right in. Bowers made immediate impact. Washington, even though he wasn't as utilized as he should have been, but he's made some key plays last year, and he's getting back healthy this year. Like you saw, we tried to target him, almost made that insane catch on the sideline. He's getting back to it. And then Fitzpatrick's usually always been used pretty much as like a safety valve. So we're getting a lot more about a tight end room, and I do think like Fitzpatrick, is he phasing out like graduating? I think or
I think he's a junior. I'll find out.
yeah.
John Fitz.
So
No. I don't want. It says it brought up John F.
he's
Kennedy.
okay. So Fitzpatrick is a redshirt junior,
Yeah, so he's a junior. Yeah, so
and
he's to be
he
set up for
so
another year.
yeah, and then that COVID year waiver, so he might actually have him for 2 years, but I imagine he probably will transfer because of playing time, or unless Darnell goes pro next year, which he might be if we keep Monken and everybody stays. But yeah, no, like so. Back to the point about Oscar, like the tight end room's getting more and more used by the day, as we've seen with Bowers, McConkey, AD Mitchell. If you can play, you can play. You'll get on that field. You will get on that field as long as you buy in. Like we already have multiple mismatches, so he will get opportunity to gain yards. He'll get opportunity to be one of the best players on this team. And even though we have a lot of amazing players, he has the opportunity to be that because there's no single one. It could be 1 week, it could be Washington, 1 week, it could be Jermaine Burton, whenever he's healthy, it could be one Harris. Like there's opportunity at this team, no matter who it is, to be that guy, that game. And Oscar could be that. Like so shout out Coach Hartley, shout out Coach Munkin, shout out Kirby for just being an amazing recruiter slash talent developer because we've got a star.
Yeah,
We've got a star.
multiple stars.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Like a lot of talent in the pipeline. We're not done yet, so look out signing day. Look out signing day. Alrighty, and moving on, we do have a game this week against a very talented SEC team. We have Mark Stoops, Kentucky Wildcats. So we have the Wildcats. We are at home. Game day is in Athens again. So to start off, to give you a brief synopsis of Kentucky, Kentucky is undefeated, 6-0, beat our rivals Florida. They beat LSU. They've beaten quite a few good teams so far this season. They have pretty good talent offensively. Their offensive line is probably the best we've faced so far. They've done really well, and they have a talented running back in Chris Rodriguez, who's been the best running back in SEC statistically. And then we have Will Levis, the transfer from Penn State, who's done a lot better than Terry Wilson did years prior. And then they have Wandale Robinson, one of the better receivers in the conference. So, Brian, first off, thoughts on Kentucky as a program, thoughts on how they're trending before we get into the game itself.
I really like this. I really like what they're doing there in Kentucky. I think they remind me of Arkansas a little bit too. You know, these kind of typical bottom feeder SEC teams who aren't very, haven't been very good in a little bit, who have built pretty good programs. And I think that Coach Stoops has done a good job with that team. They've had a couple of big wins this year. Will Levis is definitely a big improvement for them offensively. I think, was it 2 years ago when they had what was his name, Lynn
Bowden.
Yeah, Lynn Bowden.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a safety turned quarterback, and he's basically just there. They didn't really have a true quarterback, so just to see that turnaround is incredible. And it as a Georgia fan, it sucks. You look at a game like you look at Kentucky, and you circle it on your calendar as an easy. When you look at Vanderbilt, Kentucky, those types of teams where you're kind of just, all right, cool. These are easy wins, and then you worry about South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, and all that later on. But not anymore. Not anymore. Luckily, we have them at home. So I think they're a great program. They're very good defensively. They have a good defense, and that's the theme that we've seen this year. These teams that we played, Arkansas, they had they're pretty decent defensively, and we showed them up. Auburn has a pretty good defense, like we mentioned, and we showed them up. So I'm interested to see what they're gonna how they're gonna come out, how they're gonna look at against Georgia, and can they will the game. My thing about Kentucky is the game going to be too big for them. That's kind of what I'm a little worried about. I'm not worried about as a Kentucky, if I were to be a Kentucky fan. Will the game be too big for them this early in kind of like their success? It's a big test for them early on.
Definitely, like you said, like they've been great this year. They've beaten a lot of the challenges that they had. Kentucky, for the most part, has been improved. Ignoring the COVID season, the inbound season, they're improved because they're healthier, they're stronger, they're better, they're faster, they recruit better than I've ever seen them recruit. Like Stoops is a lifer there if he chooses to. If not, he's probably the hottest coaching commodity in the country right now because of how well Kentucky does. Um, he said they made choices too. Like they have gotten Cohen from the Sean McVay school, where replacing Eddie Grant, who they actually just brought back last week as like an analyst or a special assistant. But yeah, they know when to make changes when things aren't working correctly. That's the one thing that you look for in a coach. Like they look for outside help, they look for improvements, and I got nothing but respect for Kentucky. Like they've come a long way. I do miss the fact that back in the day they were fairly easy to beat,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like this isn't new for them. Like 2018, they were the ninth ranked team in the country when we beat them at their house. But like Kentucky is great. Like they've done really well. And like I said, I miss those days that there were easy wins, but there's no such thing in this conference anymore outside of when you play Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So it's tragic. Like think about it. 3 years ago, Kentucky won 10 games. Kentucky. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, but it's not 3 years ago. This is now. And even though they're undefeated, I do think that we do beat them. There are a few key areas that I'm worried about, but we will beat them. So moving forward to your prediction and like how you think the game will shake out. So Brian, like what do you think? Like key things for us to avoid, key things for us to do in order to beat them, and the end result.
It's been the common theme the last few weeks where we have and it's kind of the same thing with these top with ranked teams. And I kind of see the way we played Arkansas, so we play Kentucky. If you just kind of punch them in the mouth early, you take the lead. Um, you know, I always want to. I think with these types of games, you if you win the toss, get the ball first, score a touchdown, get a 3-and-out, and then that you set the tempo from there. And that's what we did against Arkansas, and they weren't able to recover from that. And if we can do that, I think that'll definitely, we'll win fairly easily. I'm starting to get to the point where I'm starting to just expect wins and expect to win big, but at the same time, I remember that I'm a Georgia fan, and we're talking about the Georgia Bulldogs, and we're talking about the team
Absolutely.
who lost to South Carolina at home on a missed field goal in overtime, a team who blew a 21-7 lead in the national championship against Alabama, who blew a 28-14 lead against Alabama in the SEC championship game the year after that. So I'm starting to not. I don't want to get too high, and it's getting me, and I'm getting nervous because I feel like I'm still kind of expecting that hiccup, and it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. I thought, Arkansas, like, oh, maybe a team like Arkansas, and we talked about it last week. I was very, very nervous last week against Auburn, and then that first drive where they marched down the field and kicked a field goal, and I was like, oh my, like it kind of got a little nerve wracking, but then the true color showed out in the same Georgia fashion. Defense, was swarming, offense scored points, and we won big. So that's what I think is going to happen here. I think Kentucky might, we need to give them credit. They're a really good team, and they deserve, to be seen as a really good team, and not just say, oh, whatever, we're going to win. So I'm excited to see, the Kentucky offense and see how they phase against the defense. I know we've talked about that, before. We talk about that every week. So, the Kentucky defense has yet to allow anybody over 175 rushing yards. Nobody against Kentucky has thrown for 300 yards. Kentucky, I think one thing that Georgia does a really good job of is causing penalties on the defensive side on offense. The opposing offenses to have penalties that happen against Arkansas. Kentucky is among the best in the SEC. I think they're second or third. I forgot what they are in penalty yards. So it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a better game than what I anticipate. I think Chris Rodriguez, he's probably one of the best running backs that we've seen. I know we saw Tank Bigsby, last week, but I think he's one of the better running backs that we've seen all season. So I'm kind of interested to see how he's going to phase against this stout Georgia defense. But if they can kind of pound the ground, I said the same thing about Arkansas. If Kentucky can come out and pound the run, find some holes in the Georgia defense, which you can say that there was some of them opened up last week, and you cause Georgia to kind of be on their heels a little bit and kind of press a little bit more than they should, and maybe throw the ball a little bit more than they should, and force Stetson Bennett to make a throw or some sort of mistake. Maybe they have a chance to win, but I just can't see it. I think I'm going to say Georgia wins 41-3. 41-3.
Damn. Like you said, Georgia's going to win. There's a few reasons why I think they'll win. Number one, it's at home. Kentucky's biggest road win so far is South Carolina. In fact, I think that is their only game they've played on the road this year. And that is their only game they've played on the road this year. So South Carolina's not really that program that has such a loud base, at least in terms of where they are ranked and how the team is. Like, the fans aren't as ruckus as we've seen here. Like, home field advantage is a thing. Like, think about it. Alabama lost to Texas A&M because A&M was at home. They've had fans, and these guys haven't played in this environment in years. Like, we're at home. The stadium gets loud. So we have that advantage. Number one. Number two, we're battle tested. Like I said, this is going to be our third week playing a ranked opponent. We've played 4 ranked opponents already this season. We know these type of games that we have to win. We're well equipped for these kind of games. For the most part, Kentucky's only played Florida. And to their credit, they beat a good Florida team. That was at home. We've beaten ranked teams on the road. We beat Auburn on the road. We come to a neutral site. You're able to do this in different areas. So that's his experience factor. And then number 3, I do think what I mentioned earlier with having at the end of the Auburn game, I do think that we'll be able to wear them down. I don't think that we'll pass for over 300 yards. I do think they'll be able to rush for over 175. I do think they'll rush over 200, probably 225. I think we can wear them down a lot to where they'll get tired, and then we'll break out these long runs. We've had a few long runs last week, and break those out, and we'll get points that way. The few things I will say that I'm worried about is, one, if we somehow do lose this game, I'll read you the rest of Kentucky's schedule and figure out how we're going to make the SEC title game minimum. So if we somehow lose to Kentucky, we need them to lose 2 games for us to get back to Atlanta. Their next games are at Mississippi State, Tennessee at home, at Vanderbilt. That's their end of the SEC slate. So we need them to lose 2 of those 3. To their credit, Mississippi State is a bogey team. We're not sure which team shows up, whether it's a team that can beat anybody in the country or a team that will struggle with FCS team.
Yeah.
Tennessee actually looks competent this year. Hendon Hooker, Tyon Smith, that whole team actually looks pretty good. I mean, once they made the switch from Milton to Hooker, and they've put up a lot of points these last few weeks. So Tennessee can bring it to them, but even if they say split that, there's no way that Kentucky's in Vanderbilt. So this is a must-win game, as is every game's a must-win game, because we will drop a lot if we lose. And the only saving grace is that we don't control our own destiny, because it isn't like the Alabama situation, because Texas A&M already has conference losses, but yeah, we don't control our destiny here. So This is a must win.
Oh,
But back to the
definitely.
game. Yeah. So back to the game itself. We will win. I don't think we'll win that big. I'll put it down for actually, you know what? Give me a carbon copy of this week's Auburn score. 34-10. I'm
I
not
think.
saying this.
Go ahead.
I don't. I'm not going to say it's the same exact way it's going to play out, but I do think it's going to be a carbon copy. I do think that we'll let them score, not early, but late to make them feel better. But I do think that we will put up points, but not as crazy.
I think that when thinking about, I know because people are gonna say, well, you said it was gonna be a closer game than before, but then you're saying 41-3. I think it's gonna be the first half. I think it's gonna be a little bit closer than we all think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna maybe like a 14-3 halftime score, something like that, where you kind of see like, oh, Georgia's playing, maybe like have a turnover here or there. I could even see maybe instead of, if you want to say, I already locked in my score 41-3, but like I could even see maybe Kentucky getting like a pick six or something. I think we haven't really had a lot of flaws on offense, and I think sometimes they show up. So not, I don't want to say that we're due for an offensive mistake, but we haven't really had one all season. The even turnovers haven't really been any that are at key moments. So you
Right.
know I think maybe we can see like a 14-3 halftime score, 14-7 halftime score, and then I think that third quarter, Georgia just piles it on. I can see them scoring 28 to 30 points in that third quarter, to really blow it open, and then kind of just the fourth quarter do what they always do: run the ball all fourth quarter, run down the clock, just wilt them down and win. I do want to say one thing though,
Sure.
and we the biggest concern and what's really incredible to me about this season is injuries. Just looking at our injury report for this weekend, I pulled it up and I had it. Or I was looking at it earlier as well. We got JT Daniels is day to day. Marcus Rosemi-Jacksaint, starting he was one of our better receivers last year before he got hurt, and he's hurt again. Christopher Smith, who's our hero against Clemson.
Mhm.
John Marie Sawyer,
Yeah.
he's banked up ankle. Amir Speed, Dominic Blakelock hasn't played in 2 years. Darnell Washington was limited. Arian Smith hasn't played since UAB. Tyke Smith hasn't played at all this year. Julian Rochester,
Tyke played last week.
did he play last week?
Yeah, he was on special teams.
But he hasn't really played defense that much.
Oh yeah, he hasn't really played like
He
that.
he hasn't played what he was brought in to play, which was a
Correct.
starting corner. Julian Rochester has been hurt. George Pickens has been out. Ryan Davis has been out. Jalen Kimber has been out, and then we lost Tate Ratledge. First game of the season, first series of the season, and then we we can put in Eric Gilbert in there. I don't know what's where the hell what hole he went into. I don't know what's going on with him, but
Mhm.
that's a all SEC type. You can probably put this team injuries and put them on a team, and they can probably finish second in the SEC East. So to deal with
Yeah.
all that injury and still win convincingly and still win easily and still be 6-0 and be ranked number 1 in the country, it's exciting times, man. And we can get past Kentucky, which I expect that we do. We have a bye week, and then we have we got those bums from that swamp
Yep.
the week after that. In After that, it's smooth sailing for us. We got Tennessee, we got Charleston State, we got
Missouri.
Missouri, and we got Georgia Tech. And I think Tennessee, we play Missouri at home. I think Missouri's at home. Yeah, we play Missouri at home. So it's just we get past these 2 weeks. It's smooth sailing to Atlanta, at least. And even if we do go undefeated going to Atlanta, I think we make the playoff anyway. I don't really think it's gonna affect us unless we get completely blown out by Alabama. But I mean, Notre Dame got blown out by Clemson, and they still made the playoffs. They still made the playoff anyway. So
So to clarify, which Atlanta? Because we also play a Tech this
they yeah, the SEC championship game. I'm not worried about Tech. Come on.
For sure.
But yeah, so I mean, we're in good shape. We're in good shape. I think we get past these two games, both ranked teams. We're a clear-cut number one team in the country. You beat 4 consecutive SEC ranked teams in a row. You deserve to be the number one team in the country. And after that, it's smooth sailing. But I can just see it now, man. We go play Georgia Tech at 11-0, or we play Missouri and we blunt some by some sheer excruciating luck that I'm so used to being a fan of Georgia sports teams. We lose, and oh man, I don't even want to think about it, and I'm almost expecting it just because I'm so used to it. But
I expected it a long while ago.
I thought, yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, like my trip up game. First of all, we're not looking ahead. We're just saying this if we beat Kentucky, putting that caveat out there.
Yeah,
Not trying to look ahead spirits, but the game I'm looking at, I mean, Florida, we're obviously not trying to avoid because they've beaten some good Georgia teams when they've been absolute garbage. So ignoring that game, Tennessee on the road, because this isn't your father's Tennessee, because it's Tennessee really hasn't been good in like 20 years, but Tennessee's has an offense, really good offense. Probably be the best offense we play outside of Florida this year. So that's my worry. On the road, Knoxville, great offense. But the good thing is that we've played a lot of mobile QB so far. We're getting used to them. It's a lot. One thing that won't be a weakness. It's just that Tennessee's been explosive. I'm not worried about being in a shootout in the sense. I'm just worried about because Tennessee, I do think will get theirs, just like I think Florida will get theirs. I just don't think that. I'm just worried about the offense being able to keep up enough. Like if the defense, even if the defense gets stops, we've never had to be in a position where we had to come behind by multiple scores at all, which is my worry. We've never had that. Even the Auburn game, when it was 3-0, like we weren't really worried or pressured or anything. Well, we never had that situation where we had to play from behind like that. And that's my worry with Florida, Tennessee, even Kentucky. So I'm just that behind. I'm glad we don't have that experience because it's always good to be putting the gas pedal and beating them enough to where we play our reserves. But I'm just worried about that fact that we don't have that crunch time late game situation outside of week 1. So
yeah. I mean, it could be. You could say it's a good problem to have, but you do want that experience, and we haven't seen that out of Stetson Bennett either, and we don't know how long Stetson's going to play. I've kind of heard. I was kind of hearing on the Twitterverse that we might be looking at Stetson pretty much playing the rest of the year, which I don't think is the case. I don't think that's going to happen, but we got to see. Yeah, it's interesting to see what happens. When you put Stetson to play from behind, I don't really know that we haven't really seen that dynamic a lot. We saw it against Florida, but he ended up getting hurt. But yeah, so it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see what's going to happen. We get past Kentucky, I think, it gets just easier. The road just gets easier. Obviously Florida's Florida. Neutral site games are always, you can always hit or miss, but I don't know. If we're going to lose to somebody, it's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. In my opinion, logically, it's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. Right. But we'll see. I don't know. It's weird to be the number one team in the country. It's exciting to be the number one team in the country, but at the same time, it's a little nerve-wracking just because you do have that target on your back now, and teams want to beat you so much more. So
absolutely,
we'll definitely see what happens. But I'm excited to see. I think we'll be okay this week. I don't think Kentucky's there yet, but we'll definitely see what happens.
Agreed. And before we sign off, like I said, we've been fans for a long time, and you just want to go one by one and name our favorite players, like historically.
Yeah, so we're doing this thing, this podcast, and we're talking about stats and numbers and stuff. So kind of wanted got to be we got to talk about our history, Georgia history, what kind of groomed us to be Georgia fans. And my favorite players, and I'm 25, so
Same.
I started watching. I mean, maybe like actually like really knowing what was going on, maybe like late 2000s. 2006, 2005, 2006, when you really started paying attention to what was going on, and knowing players and stuff like that. So I think my top five favorite Georgia players, and I don't want to put them in a particular order because it's kind of hard to do that. But I'm going to go with Brandon Boykin. I love
Good
Brandon
choice.
Boykin. Brandon Boykin is man, he was so good, and he offensive and defensive side of the ball. Um, and he did everything. He played defense, he played receiver, he played safety, and he returned kicks. And I forgot what game. I think there was a game where either he scored or was close to scoring a touchdown on all three sides of the ball. I think he had a kick return for a touchdown. I think he had a interception return for a touchdown, or he had a reception. Oh, he ran. He got a carry. He got a carry and he took it. I think it was in a bowl game against Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken.
It was either Outback or Capital One because we
Yeah,
played Michigan. We always played Michigan State or Nebraska in those bowl games like every other year.
yeah, I remember that. And so, uh, yeah, and he had a return. He had a rushing touchdown, a kick return touchdown, and I think he almost had a defensive touchdown as well. Which and
Oh, I
I
remember because the ball like fumbled out the end zone, so it didn't really. It was a
yeah,
weird quirk.
yeah,
Oh yeah, it was weird.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I remember that. And so I thought I loved uh Brandon Boykin. So he's the first guy that comes to mind. Uh, Number two, kind of the same era, is Aaron Murray. I love Aaron Murray. I know he gets a lot of hate. I don't know what happened post Georgia, but he gets a lot of hate for a lot of Georgia fans now, which is really strange to me. I know he got a lot of hate this weekend for he was calling the game, and everybody was kind of hating on him because of what he was talking about. But I mean, you got to remember he has a job to do.
Right.
He's working. He's not when he's at work, when he's calling the game, you can't be partial. You can't show your colors. And I think that fans don't like that he doesn't praise Georgia more than. I mean, I don't think he said anything negatively. He had his opinion on a few calls which are warranted. They were probably the right calls to make, but because he went to Georgia, he's not allowed to say that about Auburn.
Right.
So I just think he gets a lot of, but I think he's still the SEC all-time leading passer. He leads the SEC in touchdown passes, I think, or in yards. That offense was fun to watch with him under center, and he can
Beautiful.
run. He could throw deep. I remember watching him and Tavares King and Marlon Brown. Um, who else? Chris Conley.
Yeah.
Those
Justin
stuff.
Scott
Yeah,
Wesley,
Justin
all those
Scott
guys.
Wesley. Yeah, yeah. Those dudes they were ballers, man. That offense was with Mike Bobo as the offensive coordinator. They were slinging that thing. So he's my second favorite player, or not second favorite, but he's part of my top five. Um, Number three, I think I'm going to go with Jarvis Jones. I think Jarvis Jones,
Sackman.
yeah, he was Roquan Smith before Roquan Smith. He was Nakobe Dean before Nakobe Dean. And he was so good. And I hate that his NFL career didn't pan out, but he was so good. I loved him. I loved him a lot. He was really good. He was a lot of fun to watch, and a lot of it is more nostalgia too. We're just growing up watching these guys play. It was a lot of fun. Uh, Number four, you have to go with the GOAT. I think the GOAT quarterback is in Matthew Stafford. I still think he's the best quarterback Georgia's ever had, talent wise. He's probably the most talented quarterback.
Absolutely.
And we see what happened since. He's carved out a pretty decent NFL career. Yeah, I mean he's probably the first big name player that I remember. Him and Nosha Moreno and that '07 team. I remember them being on the cover of Sports Illustrated, being number one in the country, to preseason number one after the 2007 season. Beating Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl and demolishing Hawaii, and that kind of really fueled the fire of Georgia football for me. So I'm gonna go with with Matthew Stafford, number 3, and then just rapid fire my last 2. More recently, I'm going to go with Nick Chubb, number 4. I think what he did here is amazing. And then lastly, which is kind of weird because I don't know if it's recency bias or if it's just because I don't know. I just love an underdog. I love Stetson Bennett, man. I love him. I don't know why. He's one of my all-time favorite Georgia Bulldogs. I love him. I hope he succeeds, whatever he does in life. Obviously, I don't think he's going to go to the NFL, but I just
You never know.
especially you never know. Especially his story is pretty amazing, and what he's done this year and last year. He had he was dealt a bad hand last year with COVID and everything, and he kind of bet on himself coming back to Georgia. He didn't run away. He didn't really cower. We can talk about another 5-star quarterback that was in our system that decided to run away. So he didn't do that, and he's been the benefits. He's playing extremely well. He's holding us down while JT Daniels is hurt, and I think he deserves he deserves all the success in the world, and I hope he continues to get it. And there isn't a better storybook ending, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, where I can imagine him playing a significant amount in the national championship game, and him hoisting up the championship trophy. I will immediately buy a Stetson Bennett jersey right then and there, and I will always just, even if he doesn't start that game, if we win the Natty this year, I think he deserves a lot of the credit. So those are my top 5 favorite Georgia Bulldogs.
Good choices. Good choices. For me, let me start off. Number 1, I just got to group this whole position together. The running backs. It's kind of hard to differ, because if I just did running backs like each individual, I can't even fit all 5. So you got to go all the way back to Musa Smith. Got to add your Craig Lumpkin, your Thomas Brown, Sean Moreno, LaShawn Ely, King, Isaiah Crowell. For that one season he was here.
Yeah.
Why did he have to get kicked out? Chubb, Gurley, Marshall, Swift, Sony, Holyfield was good, and then all this new crowd: McIntosh, Milton, White, Cook, like even Edwards, like they're all good. Like I can't separate them. The running backs. So all grouped, all have their moments, all very integral parts of the university. Thank them every day. Number 2, quarterback will surprise you, because normally people would go either Stafford or Murray. I will go with DJ Shockley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no. So we honestly had a shot at potential title.
Yeah.
If Shockley wasn't injured during the cocktail party, because then that year I think we started Joe Tereshinski, who was damn good dog, but he's not a quarterback. But yeah, no, DJ was great. Won the SEC title that year that he fully started. Damn shame the Super Bowl didn't work out the way he wanted to, but he was SEC Player of the Year. Like great quarterback, fun, mobile, strong arm, could hit. He was darting that ball against LSU, which was a pleasant sight to see. Number 3, I'll go with everybody's favorite defensive player, David Pollack.
Oh, yeah. I kind of forget about David Pollack.
Best defensive player in the country. Those years that he played. God damn, man. Like, honestly, seeing him sack the South Carolina quarterback in the end zone, which turned into an interception. We still don't know what to call that play in the past, like 20 or so years, because it could count as interception, sack. Either way, it was a touchdown that he had. Amazing player. Best pass rusher I've seen. That boy was a monster. Number 4, AJ Green. That's my guy. Like, best receiver that we've had talent-wise. Loved him. Like, tremendous talent. Like, man can catch. It was just a shame that we wasted him on some awful UGA teams. Just sad that we wasted him on a 7-5 and a 6-6 team.
I mean, you got himself suspended too, so.
Yeah, but like so did Todd. But like I'm not really holding out against them. It's NCAA and NCAA, so I'm not really mad at them, the players as much. And then finally, this is tough because there's a lot of good players. I'll go with Malcolm Mitchell.
Malcolm
So
Mitch. Yep.
yeah. So for a player that was originally supposed to be one of the greatest corner prospects of all time, but just wanted to play receiver, great receiver. Man could catch. Like he was, because a lot of times when people want to play, they want you at corner, you can't catch. This boy can catch. Man brought a lot of great memories to my childhood. The one thing I was actually really sad about was when he messed up his knee trying to celebrate a Gurley touchdown in the Clemson game.
Yeah.
With the celebration, that kind of hurt me. But in general, like Malcolm, yeah, so crazy because Malcolm was an all-time great talent. Wish we would have won with more of him. One more with him here, but no, Malcolm's amazing. Honorable mention to Roquan. Honorable mention to Justin Houston. Honorable mention to Brandon Coutu and Goggles. Honorable mention to pretty much everybody because I loved everybody at this program. So, but those are my five. The running backs.
Yeah.
Can't separate them.
Yeah, no, you really can't. As we've talked, I've kind of thought about just thinking about all the great Georgia players that have come through and just have impacted my fandom as a Georgia fan. We've brought up a lot of great names, and I remember that game against we talk about Malcolm Mitchell, that game against Florida when he had that touchdown late. I think it was at 20. It was like fourth down. It was a 20-something yard touchdown. He did like a quick in and burst it out for a touchdown. I remember cheering. I couldn't even speak after that. And then right before that, that's when Jarvis Jones had that fumble. He caused that fumble at the goal line. Who was it? Was it Kellen?
Jordan Reed.
Jordan Reed. Yeah, he was like he had like an easy touchdown and it was Jarvis
because he tried to. Yeah, Jarvis Jones, because Reed tried to hurdle somebody, and then next thing you know, he popped it up.
Either popped it out of and went out of the end zone, and we got the ball back, and then we ended up scoring that next drive. So that game was incredible. So with Michael Mitchell and Chris Conley and who else? Who was that wide receiver we had? Bennett too. Yeah, what was his name? Michael Bennett. Yeah, Michael Bennett.
Chris Durham was there.
Yeah. Arthur Lynch,
Jay Rome. And
we haven't even brought up the offensive, the great offensive linemen we've had with David Andrews and Isaiah Wynn,
Canarius Gates, James Giles,
Colton Houston. Just man, we can spend an hour just talking about the great players, and so. I say that it's funny I didn't mention Todd Gurley when I'm literally wearing a Todd Gurley jersey, but I love Todd, and obviously he's one of the greatest of all time. I don't know, I never connected. I don't think he was just never my favorite. I think him with the Aaron Murray's years, I was so Aaron Murray, he was my favorite player ever. I loved Aaron Murray so much. But we can get into. I mean, like I said, we could talk like out for hours on this. And we could talk about all the quarterbacks. I was thinking about all the quarterbacks that have gone between Matthew Stafford and Stetson Bennett. And we can talk about
Joe Cox.
Yeah, the Joe Cox year. And then we had Joe Cox. We had Joe Cox and then Aaron Murray right after that.
Yep.
And then after Aaron Murray, we had
Grayson Lambert. We don't talk about that here. Actually, no, it was Mason.
No, it was Mason.
Hudson Mason.
Yeah,
it was Mason. He was solid. I like Mason.
I think Garrett Lambert was. I think he was underrated. I don't think he was that bad. I mean, we won 10 games with him, and
Mason was 10 games. Lambert was 9, I think.
No, we won 10 games with him. I think. I'm pretty sure. Let's see.
Which was the one where was that the season we got crapped on by Alabama? Yep. Yeah, we actually did win 10 games with Grayson. Wow.
Yeah.
Because I know the year before we won 10 with Mason. I didn't know he did it back to back. Wow. And they really fired him in the 9-1 season. But
Yeah,
we need to hit that next level. So
yeah, and then Grayson, and then he got benched for
and
for Jacob Eason, and then Fromm, and then yeah, that's it. And then after Fromm, we're here. We are after Fromm, kind of scrambling, but yeah. So, but I digress. Like I said, we could talk about this forever, and I don't want to make this too long. But
yeah,
we have a really special season going, and I hope that we can continue. And I just I'm trying to hold, just hold back, pump the brakes a little bit, just kind of take it day by day, and just enjoy every game. And hopefully it'll end in a very special way. So we'll hopefully next week we'll talk about this again and have more happy conversations.
yeah, no. Hopefully we'll have happy conversations. Like we said, the moment we lose, we'll stop doing this because we are very salty people in the sense that you will not see us when we get embarrassed. So we will not do this.
Yeah.
We'll do this, but it'll be painful for us to record. But any last words for the audience here?
No, just go Dogs, and we'll talk. Hopefully we'll come back next week and talk about more victories.
Like the man said, go Dogs. Talk about victories that will happen, hopefully. I am praying it's a nice season game. Nice season win. Get some rest for our guys. Got the bye week coming up the following week. Get some nice recovery time, like a lot of ice baths, a lot of therapy. So that way we're all healthy. So with that said, go Dogs. We will see you next week.
Sir.